If you have to try to care for me, then I don't want it. If caring for me isn't natural, don't worry about it. Look, I don't want you to pretend to care for me. I only want you to care for me if you want to care for me. Yeah, I don't want to do this fake it till you make it thing. My name is Steve Harley. I'm a marriage coach here at Marriage Builders, and I've been working with couples for over 30 years. I've heard it all. I've worked with it all. And what I found one of the biggest obstacles to a successful marriage is education, the lack of it. I like to remind people that they're in a relationship where the failure rate is over 50%. It's worse if it's your second, third marriage, etc. And what I strongly believe is that the biggest culprit is lack of information, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of how to be successful. More specifically, how to maintain this relationship of extraordinary care that started out just fine, but is now ending up something rather otherwise. Let me also play Captain Obvious for a moment. You married someone that's wonderfully different from you. Yes, I said wonderfully different. It's why you got together in the first place. Think about it. If you married someone like you, just like you, wouldn't last long. You can't live with yourself. There's a reason for that. Instead, you appropriately married someone wonderfully different from you. That's how it works. That's the design of it all. You're supposed to add to each other's lives. You do that by finding something that you don't have, it fits well, and makes something greater. That's the process of growth. You don't get growth through redundancy. You don't get growth through just copying the same thing that you have. You might argue that adds a little strength, but it's not growth. For growth, you've got to add something more, something that wasn't there to start with. That's your teammate. That's your spouse. Wonderfully different. So, clearing that up, in order for those wonderful differences to actually work together the way they're supposed to, you have to know what you're doing. Because as you've already found, feeling your way through this doesn't work. You have to know what you're doing. Yes, you've heard it before, but it's true. You have to be intentional about the success of your marriage. I like to use the example of fitness to help understand the issue. I'm out here on a run. It's actually snowing on and off. Not the best day to go for a run, actually. So why am I out here? Do I actually want to be out here in the cold, snowy weather? Well, kinda. Not because I like being cold, not because I like to run through neighborhoods of houses that I can't afford, and no, not because I like making videos. It's actually pretty simple. It's because I know that if my body is going to be physically fit, I've got to do something that's in the cardiovascular category. I chose running. It works for me, but it's in the category of a cardiovascular workout. It's something that I took the time to learn that my body needs a cardiovascular workout if it's going to be in shape. Now, there are a few other things that it needs, but a cardiovascular workout is one of them. So I make sure that I'm doing something in that category to contribute to the health and well-being of my body. It works. Now, when I started running, when I started figuring out what my body actually needed, I thought, okay, I suppose I could figure out how to do that. And when I started, I was not a runner. I actually had to lose weight before I could start running. Think about that. When I started running, I didn't look like a runner. I ran, but was I pretending to be a runner? Was I trying to fool anybody in believing that I was a runner? Did anyone try to run after me and say, hey, you can't do that, you're not a runner? No, it was actually the opposite. Those that also understood the concept of running said, hey, way to go, nice job, keep at it, it'll get better. It actually did. What was key is I educated myself on what was necessary, what needed to happen in order for my body to adapt to running. And through the process of adaptation, it did. I handled it with care. It was a process, but I figured it out. Learning how to care for each other works in much the same way. First, there's the education. You got to find out what is needed in the relationship for it to become mutually enjoyable, for it to become a relationship of extraordinary care. Remember what I said earlier, you married someone wonderfully different from you. You're going to find out things that they need that you're thinking, I don't like that, or that's not me, or I don't need that. You may think that's true, but what you'll find out is the categories of emotional needs that your teammate has are actually categories that you're going to benefit from. The key to finding that out is making sure that it's developing in a way that works for both of you. It's a process. There's, needless to say, a few details in that process, kind of like running. It was a process. I learned a lot. I learned mostly what not to do, but I also learned what to do in order for things to improve, things to get better. As I added to the menu of what I learned that was positive, that menu list continued to lengthen. I stayed away from the things that I knew didn't work well for my body, created setbacks, and I focused on the things that actually contributed to the development and well-being of my fitness. When I'm working with couples, it's much the same process. It's learning about what is needed in order for success. Gathering that information, once that sometimes shocking information is gathered, we keep those feelings of concern in check and we continue moving forward, understanding that we're gonna need to come up with a plan. We're gonna need to come up with a strategy that actually allows these categories to develop in a way that works for both of them. Trying to keep this short, again, it's a process. There's a few details to sorting it out. I just want to introduce to you the idea that it's going to be a process of learning, a process of developing, and a process of creating a lifestyle that contributes to a relationship of extraordinary care. As I say in other videos, make sure that you're not only learning about how to be successful, but specifically learning how to be successful at extraordinary care. That specific goal tends to matter when you get into the details. That's true with any high performance system. You can start off rather general and feel like you're making progress, but if you've got certain elements of that system out of place, your process is going to come to a screeching halt at some point or another. That's because there's a flaw in the system somewhere. So, keeping in mind that it's about serving the goal, you want to make sure that you're serving the right goal, the goal of extraordinary care. So, instead of thinking, look, I don't want you to pretend to care for me. If you have to try to care for me, then I don't want it. If caring for me isn't natural, don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't want to do this fake it till you make it thing. If you're in a process of learning how to care for each other for the long run, then instead you'll want to encourage the effort. As long as it's being proposed as an effort to develop the ability to care for each other, it's in your best interest for them to be successful. No, I'm not sacrificing. Sure, today is requiring a little more intentionality than, say, running on a nice sunny day along the beach. But the benefit is the same. It's my responsibility to keep in mind that this is something that is necessary in order for my body to thrive. The parallel here is with being in shape and feeling connected to each other, being physically fit and being in a relationship of extraordinary care. Again, my name is Steve Harley. I've been a marriage coach for decades. I would just like to impress upon you that establishing a relationship of extraordinary care can be done if you know what you're doing. To learn more about that, go visit the marriagebuilders.com website. We've got a few programs for you to look at, different levels of involvement, but it's a place to at least get started. Hope your day is a bit warmer than mine. I've got a few more miles to go. I better get going before it gets worse. Have a great day.